Generation 2, the Dawn Days. Generations ago, the people living in Britain were unlike those now occupying this bountiful land, and in the bygone ages, great herds of cattle were tended on rolling green plains. Southward grew long-stemmed corn, but in those long days it was not bartered with black-bearded strangers from beyond the stormy seas. The first folk holding this land were the Camelides, called Wictaran in the old days, old tongue, Wictaran in the old tongue. But these were the dwellers in the north, while southward were the dark, short-legged dwarf men known as Oben. They were the kingless and chiefless. Right. The first folk holding the land were called the Camelides, called Wictaran in the old tongue, but these were dwellers in the north, while the southward were the dark, short-legged dwarf men known as Oben. They were kingless and chiefless, though it is said by some that stocky, statued Cathlon was once their king. None knows who led the dwarfmen here, though men do say the land spawned them. Though the land is good, they were hag-ridden, forest-faring, river dwellers who painted their faces and legs, users of evilly poisoned weapons. Theirs were grim gods of death and darkness. In their festival times, the dwarf men sat in somber caves, eating children as part of their evil feasting. They had no priests, only dwarfesses called Chethin, meaning raven adopted. And there was a great one above the others called Harada, who lived in a smoky cave called Heg-Rin. They were ruled by old hag women who prepared the hellish brews in fire churns, tended by devilish brown-swaddled dwarf maidens, for they also worship beings dwelling in smoke. The last hag woman queen of the Oben was Quazur, who had a cave shelter hole in Switten, which is the dwarf isle now called Inisiug in the western tongue. They worshipped the old year teller, coming from afar on wind floats, the neighbouring wind horses of later days. The most hallowed of their rites were those celebrated before the May flowering, when filthy things were done, for they had no shame. Here the children of the dusk gathered in the month of the willows to worship Mamdu and her Baal brood, performing vile rites under the command of Balathus, the great man god. The dwarf men, both north and south, were skin swaddled, though sometimes wearing nettle cloths of black or brown, and the like cloths of black or brown, and like the cat, dove, and dog, they mated openly without shame. They gathered toadstools, brockberries, ivy, wayweed, and other unwholesome plants, using these with evil moon dew to make a maddening brew, which opened a strange door on hellish worlds. They were ruled by cow-led sewards and dread witches, and were unable to number beyond a score. There are dwarfmen still living among us in the forest depths and in the caverns under the earth, though none have seen one. They quickly take to flight, and though fearing it will take refuge within the forest, sometimes a bold one will say, and will greet the wayfarer with, "Hail, man, I saw you from afar, but stayed." To which the reply must be made, "Before seeing you, I was as one dead, but now life comes again." Then providing a gift is also given, the wayfarer remains unmolested. In the generations of the dwarf men, Broad Britain was many marshed lands. Was a many marshed land, where dismal ferns and tangled forests hindered passage from place to place. The Oben were not numerous, and their children few, but they were hardy and long-lived. Their caves were painted, even in the darkest depth, where daylight never fell, for the eyes of the Oben were like those of cats. They were not skillful hunters, but set many traps, and in lots of ways were like children. They were playful when not engaged in dark doings, but their menfolk were not manly, nor their women womanly. They were cunning and devious, not to be trusted. Far to the south were the swarthy swarm of Folga, though these were not true dwarf men, but the outcome of intermingled blood. They were worshippers of Nana, the mighty mother, and were ruled by many fey women, who sat in night councils when the summer shriner slept. Into the land held by the short dark Oben came tall wiry Tothsolers, who were sunfolk. They came through Irana and the country of the Nudlanders, who wore gully traps, and it was for those days men began to breed swine. So around the time of pig domestication. The first beast bred to be eaten. There you go. For only the dwarf men eat dogs and cats. The land was then called Muradin, meaning the place of rest. Then into the eastly lowlands came the seaborn. Baradon with his ploughmen, and that part lying between Hildreth and Pretankley they made their own and called it Holbon. Baradon was the son of Indrid, who married Hurash. Indrad was the son of Jova, who married Alsus, and Josa was the son of he who became the first father of the households. Wise, hoary-headed men have treasured these tales, belonging to our first great race, the wise and noble, having its birthplace in the great forest Grit mountains, bespangled with green, sky-pointing pine fingers. These are the tales of time before men were men, when the big-bellied murky mother ruled the world, covering nether folk, sharing the land with the giant endlings. The great gutted one was unaware of the wind-blasted salt waters, living in the mountain, hid in a thicket-walled cave places. Beyond the corn-grass plains of Nonima, she knew only the cold companionship of hooded adders. There in the smoke-smothered, gloom-enshrouded caverns, attended by her daughter Aldewed, she read signs for rock-stalled bailings, plucking dark wisdom from writhing flames. Lovers of the comforting fire warmth, smoke dreamers, seekers of home hearths, consolation not far, raging war bringers or land openers, the neither folk desired only to remain undisturbed, compatible companions to intangible rafts, flitting shades and unsubstantiable ghosts. They knew full well the secrets of Gorwell, fearing forest ruling Famba. They begged protection of the Nethergore, the Netherugri, but among the life-giving trees he was powerless. In the smoke-curtailed, many-pillared hole, unblessed by regenerating sunray, the Netherfolk called upon the one night goddess their prayers, weird yelpings in the ruddy gloom. Their music was a rushing gurgle and splash of the falling waters, their song a howling whine. These were the race spawned long ages ago in the dark mired moss swamps, fern-eating foemen of the poison dart. Not for them the swiftly killed sacrifice, their delight was in painful maiming, in their broken humiliation of their betters. Woeful indeed was the yearly fate of the hag mother's spouse on the long dark night preceding the brutal day during the the feast of flame. They were wolf-taking howlers of the night, owl-screeching denizens of dim caverns, speech-beguilers of wild creatures in closed places, cowled and cloaked in dull clothing. They were undistinguishable in their habitat, save for the foul nostril stinging smell of bodies ointmented with pig fat, soot, blood and clay. All the night at the dark of the moon they pranced around stone-hedged, deep-dug, glowing fire pits, their kirtles upheld by the never-subsiding limb beneath. So kettles. Bemuddled, grease-grimed and grey were the heads of the hag women, seated around the ash fires, muttering darkly over the Rowan omen sticks, casting spells for the hell-spewed horde. They sucked fat-dripping potions from the stone-heated pots. Only the poison spared. Only the poison spared. He-goat, leader of rituals, received choicer portions than they. Never fighters with sword or axe and shield, the battle-shy dwarfmen were twin-handed dart hurlers. Okay, let me read it again. Never fighters with sword or axe and shield, the battle-shy dwarfmen were twin-handed dart hurlers, back-pointing evil-toothed, barbed short-lace lances, back-pointing evil-toothed, barbed short lances were their hand-carried weapons, and no man-smiting metal was theirs to work. Man-smiting metal was theirs to work. Nor did they pin their cloaks, but held them together with animal threads. They had no shields, but were agile and deft in dodging and thrusting weapons of their foes. Little leprechaun people, man, sound like hardcore. In the dark, wild, wooded land came blood-haired Lodmore, son of Cal, wave-born, encased within the ship, bellies of oak and beech, father fighter of the upright Ebrith, the hearth-hallower, the wife-maker, the child-protector, the wild herd rider, up the flowing waters to Muspel, place of the Netherfolk, came the fair-skinned wanderers, not with fight-straining eyes, but with hands empty of weapons and guileless hearts, seeking only to live out on the grass-thatched plains. Their eyes fell on sights never before seen: the feast of offal, the fire smoke dancing, the open coupling before jesting advice giving onlookers. No sight this for maidens of the Ebris, no place for wide-eyed womenfolk, not for red-cheeked children's curiosity, the pleasures of the dusky horde, not for the hard-hunting men, the stone benches of the wolf wenches. The heavy-handed ones who made men of men had come to a land demanding their care, and they were vigilant. Long into the night echoed the songs of Belu and Blas, while those of the upper-born race sat sternly silent, their disgust unvoiced. No thoughts of spare reddening had they, as they gazed upon the revolting antics. Beyond the distinguishable wall, where ruddy firelight gently kissed the face. Beyond the indistinguishable wall, where ruddy firelight gently kissed the face of darkness, skulkers of the nether folk stole the first swaddled sleeper, man-child of the lusty-lunged war-singer. Swiftly he was borne away in the arms of the son of the day banisher. So they stole a baby. As the rumours with the little people go, and they steal your babies. What's the baby? They stole the baby from the stupid Taikini! Right, anyway. Swiftly he was borne away, and in the arms of the son of the day banisher. Righteous rage broke out in the ranks of the upright ones. No longer were the war weapons unwetted, ruddy, indeed the dawn over Muspel, but in the bushes and trees about the place lurked most of the swarthy swarm, escaped to howl vile threats in defiance at the grouped warriors and their protected womenfolk. So they were surrounded. With the opening of the dawn's eye, the brawny warriors were spread wide, driving the wily foe from his cover. Eager the faces fierce, Eager the faces fierce, close held the comforting shields, but the foemen were as hard to grapple with as the morning mists. The call to close came many times, the red horn resounding through the thicketed woods, but the dwarf men were never in front, always behind. Then the Sky Chief descended towards its resting place, and the warriors came to a clearing before a caverned cliff face, and there the evil brood were cornered. Grim-faced, the tall ones entered the battle clamour, but the axe and sword bit only unsatisfying ear. There was a scattering of the small ones, followed by a hunting through the darkling glades. Ever the swift, silent, poisoned darts flew, and the bitter barbs bit deep, fastening viciously onto heroic flesh. Evil indeed for the heroes of this die. Back through bramble entangling woods, through high grassed glades, came the weary warriors, the long thirsty swords still alert and eager for the blood of the barbed dart throwers. That night they camped where they had left their guarded womenfolk, and with the dawnlight the sentries discovered a dwarfman. It was Camrid the Wrinkled, and he brought back the man-child and the heart of his abductor. "Tattish peace," cried Cramword the Wrinkled before the long, sharp pronged spear of Thunderwolf. Let be, let us bide together." Sad tears the dark eyes shed. "Peace," said the sword sheathers. "Defile not the Ankerthil, peace be." The hand-gripping hands, familiar with axe, spear and sword, were extended in friendship, and the vengeance smiting and blood flow ceased. So they called a truce. Then to the stockade came the small ones, emissaries for peacemaking. Magas and Shine, dwarf men of Himi, Mooney, Meany, and Shindy, with Lum the leader, brown-clad, hooded, kirtlered, belted, and intasseled, russet skin and ruddy-faced. Then came white. Then came wise Killen to the peace-making, tall, towering, sinewy, and stern, he of the generous land. Thus was the way opened for the fair folk to enter the land. So they came to peace and truce, and they were allowed to go and live there. And these would be the people coming out of the west and the northwest, something like that. Thus was the way open for the fair folk to enter the land. Lodmore led his people through the forested land to the white, dusty hawthorn plains, and they settled there in peace. There they raised noble sons, white-browed, blue-eyed, slim-womaned, and dutifully wived. Russet battle axes were laid aside. The whetstone no longer caressed the sword. Brawny arms drove the firmly held elder piles, raising the ash-held rafters, spreading above them in the thick lead fern and corded grass. Laughingly the children played, the merry maids singing, the building blows of men echoing in the clearings, from the moors to carry timber and stone came sons of the night crow, blue-skinned people, dark-cloaked, mossy-haired men akin to open worshippers of the ever-broody mother. Now this is interesting because when I was a little child, I got lost in the bush and I encountered these little people, and they were blue, little blue people. They led me back to a creek where I recognised where I was, and that was it. They disappeared, and that was it. Very trippy shit, but you know, just one of these things. But I know that these people exist. I know the little people out there, and they still are to this day. And this is here in New Zealand. That's spread all over the world. They're everywhere. Right, anyway, carry on. This is just interesting coming across blue-skinned people, the sons of the night crow. You know. The son of Lodmore was battle-blooded. Killen, the North Rider, whose mother was Elvira, maid of the morning, and while Killen was yet young, dwarfmen came to the high stockade, embassies seeking allies. Killen sat with his father, listening to the words of the dwarfmen. It was agreed that the dwarf folk should live under the shield of Lodmar, and there they would labour in return. Then Killen gave them sticks for hoeing and digging, long stones for planting, leeks, beans, flax, barley, and wheat were the unstintingly given, along with woven haircloth and wooded glades cleared by tree encircling fires. The sowing commenced. The bow bowers were built, the swine enclosed. Not all the wide-ranging warriors thought as did Lodmore, for some said, "Let us make masters from this dark brood. Let us make masters from this dark brood of dwarfmen. Let us serve the haglings from their ever-broody hagmother, the smoky hell hag of dark caverns. Let us pen them as cattle." To enslave was not the nature of the upstanding ones. Blood had been ransomed with blood, and no score remained unsettled. No woman of the dwarf folk was beridden. When the time of May feasting was at hand, Luddy came. The dwarf chief, son of Frokith, with him his daughter and night-haired Rada. So you're black hair. The dwarf maiden came, well tended with young hag woman. Her skin was half-ripe rose seed. Her skin like half-ripe rose seed, small-faced, bee-dimpled, bird-eyed, full-haired to the knee, brown kirtled, fur-shod, cloaked with acceptable grace. She came as a worthy bride offering. Hers was the bracken bed, fragrant grass mingled within. For 3 days, Killen the battle-blooded North Rider, the weary wanderer, the forest fighter, remained silent, thoughts remaining within himself. But then he welcomed the trough plighter. He welcomed the dark maid, the non-bedridden one of the dwarfmen, for she was not unworthy of a true man. Dunno, bro. It sounds like trouble. Spake dark Ludi. This woman, the safeguarded daughter of a chief, has never been any man's plaything. Not for her the bed of sand, the dance-ending gift. This is a true lady of the elf fingers. Our women in the land, none is above her, none exceeds her in beauty or virtue. If these are your value, as man speaks with man, chief with chief, match gift with gift, let this land be ours. Give me a tall corn-haired maiden, full bosom, fair skin, sun-faced to lively gloomy lives. This is going to cause trouble, man. Spake one-tongued Killen. Give me a tall corn. Yep, he wants one of their women in exchange for one of theirs. Spake one-tongued Killen, not for me the words of hidden meaning. Spake one-tongued Killen. Right, now he's speaking. Not for me the words of the hidden meaning. No maid of light shall be given to man of darkness. Though dwarf maidens are not denied to the men of mine, if night mingle with the day, the light is lessened. So the day spurns the night. The night is not the guardian of the light. So what cares it? Does darkness put out the firelight, or fire dispel the darkness? Can they mix? No milk-skinned maid shall go at my behest. This I declare, for I even cannot forbid the troth pledge of one who loves. If there be milk-skinned maid who would freely choose to go, then let it be. She may bide she may bide as a bride of yours, but surely it is known no milk-skinned maid would ever sever herself from our race, for return with a dark brood is forbidden. No dark brood do we accept. Our men with your minds go, but what come of it is not one of us, no acceptable issue of ours. We father no dark brood, nor twilight offering. What do we choose to father our herds? The best or the worst among bulls are not men made. Are not men made times greater than cattle? No milk-skinned maid shall freely no milk-skinned maid came freely forth. The dark dwarfman chief was left unwed. The stockaded homes, the tall upright ones slept secure. No maid crept forth to mingle with the murky ones in the night. Yet when the full-sailed night scanner shone above, with weird prancing, the nethermen danced in the down-shining light, round and round, rapidly, moving the dancing feet. The earthen mound quaked, and the singing rose on the night breeze. Flute music mingled with the tree sounds. Faster flew the nimble feet, beating down on the tight-packed earth. Wilder whirled their dances to their coupling climax. The earth watchers drew a curtain of cloud over the eyes of the night shiner. No corn-haired head rose from its sleeping place. Many the moon's bathed dancers, oft wild prancing, but less and less the dark brood's numbers. Further back into the forest the cave went the dusky-skinned ones. Oft into the night darkness, fair maids were snatched by brown-cowled dwarfmen to breed twilight broodings in secret places. Woeful were the enforced couplings. Woeful the issue, not the milk-skinned maids, the free sinful couplings. Not for the milk-skinned maids, the free sinful coupling of the foredoomed dawn race. In 5 generations the nethermen were gone. Only in the dark depths of the cave, the forest, could they be found. No longer were the milk-skinned maidens molested at night. Their offerings were put out. The dwarfmen came and supped honey, bread, milk, and sour flesh, and were taken in gratitude. The race of nethermen passed into the shadows of time. Only twilight offspring roamed the land. Tawny-faced, blue-legged, weirdly painted, brown-cowled, rope-belted builders with stone. No longer dwellers in dismal caves or hunters in the dark mired swamps. The elfing built slime-covered, bow-shaped houses and raised high up toward upward pointing stones. Still soot besmeared, pig fat ointmented like the dark side of their forebearers. They were also feathered and they have feathers and quills all over them. Quill ornamented. So yeah, feathers and quills, mate. So they use the quills as well. Cool. Coming to the attack like ground slithering snakes, striking venenously from secret places. Still forests. Still forest skulkers. None could recite his lineage, for no man knew his father. These were the mother lap-reared half-folk, speaking with tongues of their fathers, their words like crackling, sputtering green twigs burning in the fire. Brown and green cloth, bebagged stone-hauling Induans, toiling for their black-bearded masters for unknown ends. End of chapter 3. I'm just going to pause it here and we'll come back and have a drink.